Hey everybody, it's Angela and I'm here to share with you my seed starting setup indoors. So I have a 4-foot light ballast here. I got the light ballast for $5 from Restore, which is a Habitat for Humanity home improvement center. And then I have 4 fluorescent bulbs inside of it that create a little bit of heat, not too much, so it doesn't scald my plants or anything like that. But the fluorescent bulbs came in a pack of 10 for $40, so they're really cheap. You can get them from Lowe's, you can get them from Amazon, whatever works for you. And then we also have these adjustable straps here. So I like the adjustable straps because I often use this space as my workstation, so being able to lift the light forward like I have it right now is really helpful. And then you can just lower it like this. It's super easy. Another reason that I like these adjustable straps is because you want to keep your seedlings about 4 to 6 inches away from the light source. If they're stretching too far, they can become a little too thin and then they won't be as happy when you put them in the garden. So that's kind of happening to me right now with some basil that I started like way too early. I got really excited about gardening this year. So you can use all kinds of containers to start your seeds in. You can use a cell tray. If you have a cool space, you can stick one of the humidity toppers on it and that'll create a little bit more humidity. If your space is warm, you probably don't need that and it could cause more dampness issues than you want to get involved in. And then we have peat pots that you can start cucumbers and squash in. I don't really use them that often, but they're an option. They're a little bit expensive for me. I'm a bit of a thrifty gardener. You could use a takeout container and poke some holes in the bottom of it and then just use one of these plastic bottoms to catch the water. 2 other pieces of equipment that are really helpful to have around to optimize your seed starting setup are heat mats and a little fan. So the fan is to create CO2 in your space, so it keeps air flowing. It also strengthens your seedlings. If you don't have a fan, you can just kind of rub them a little bit, kind of be gentle and brush against them a little bit whenever you're hanging out with them and making them feel happy. And the heat mat is to help your seeds germinate. So it increases the surface temperature by about 10 to 15 degrees, which is really optimal. If your room, say, is 65 degrees, and you can get your space, you can get that specific spot up that you're trying to germinate seeds on up to 75 degrees. Things like tomatoes and peppers really like a warmer germination temperature. So I just picked up something that was on the heat mat and I can actually feel how the bottom of the container is warmer. And I have some mini soil blocks in here as well, and the benefit to these is that the soil doesn't have as much of a gap in between the heat mat and the seed, so the seed is really technically then closer to the heat source. Some other things I keep around in my seed starting room are my watering can. So I really like this watering can because you can see where the water level is and it doesn't kind of splash everywhere and surprise you when you're tilting it. And I also prefer to bottom water, so I put the water directly in the tray rather than right at the top of the plant. And that's because I want to minimize disturbing the roots and the plant in general. So that just keeps my seedlings a little bit happier and prevents disease so that there's not water just sitting on top of the soil for a while. I keep a little spray bottle in here. This is my mister for misting my soil blocks since they're small and I don't want to disturb that soil too often by bottom watering it. So I come in here and visit them like 2 times a day and give them a little spritz. To keep track of what I've been planting, I go the old school route. I just use graph paper. I have this notebook full of graph paper and you can see here's my little chart from the last time I planted. So I know exactly what I started and about when I should start seeing them pop up. And if you're new to growing or you're just someone that likes to reference charts and graphs, I know I do. I like to keep a couple guides that I find helpful in my room here directly with all my equipment. So This is a guide you can get from Penn State Extension. It's called Sowing Annual Seeds. It's available as a PDF online and you can just print it out at home. They have all kinds of info about starting seeds outside and inside. So something I find really helpful in here, because I like to grow flowers, is this little guide about spacing flowers. And then it's nice to have something around that tells you the germination temperatures of what you're planting. So if you have something that, for example, arugula doesn't need a high germination temperature, it just needs like 64 degrees, it says on here. So if your room is 65 degrees, you don't need to turn your heat mat on to get that to germinate. So it's really helpful to have something like that around. And then this is a transplant chart, and that keeps you on track for when you should be starting things and how long it takes to germinate, and you can factor all that in to your garden planning. So thanks for listening to me share my germination station with you and my helpful tips that help me stay organized. But I hope that this video demystifies the shop light setup for you and you get growing.